Welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, got 0 out of 10, but I like it. So this is part 2 in some ways. The first one I did with that title was for the band Triumph and their 2 albums, Surveillance and Sport of Kings. Today I'm doing Giant, the first 2 Giant albums, which both scored 0 out of 10 in Martin Popoffs' Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal. This is the volume 2, the 80s, Last of the Runaways, and Time to Burn. Both scored 0 out of 10. Now, just before I carry on, I do want to stress I'm in no ways being critical of Martin Popoffs' abilities as a reviewer. He is fantastic. I love his work, love his writing. It's just a simple case of everyone's got different opinions. Music is very subjective, and in this case, Martin's been on my show, and we both raved about our love for love-hate. So we are on the same page on many areas. Just so happens with some bands or some albums that he's reviewed that he's not liked, I quite like. And it's interesting too, when you're giving something 0 out of 10, you're pretty much saying has no redeeming features at all. And I think maybe there's a certain sound too that Martin just is not into. Because the band I'm looking at today, Giant, you could compare them a little bit to a band like Triumph. It's that sort of melodic hard rock sound, commercial hard rock sound that was popular in the 80s, mid-80s sort of thing. So although their first album from Giant does not actually come out until 1989, and it is this one here, Last of the Runaways. Giant is made up of, on bass, Mike Briganadillo. Sorry, I probably completely said his name wrong, but he's the bass player. Now on drums, we've got David Huff, also background vocals, keyboards and background vocals, Alan Pasqua, and lead vocals and guitar, and pretty much the star of the show for me is Dan Huff. Now, he's also quite well known as a producer. He's produced, he's probably most, I think, well known for having been a producer on for Megadeth. But he's really in recent years got into doing more. He does country music now too as a producer. He on these 2 albums I'm going to talk about is the lead vocalist and also the guitar player. But let's talk about the first album, so Last of the Runaways. The producer for this album is Terry Thomas. He's probably most well known for working with Tesla. And interesting, this is an American band, but it's actually recorded at Ridge Farm Studios in England. And I do know that the first 2 Aussie albums, I think, were recorded there as well. So, so for whatever reason, they've gone over there to record it. They've actually got Leah Hart, who was in Fastway, probably was in Fastway about this time, 89. He's on backing vocals as well. But so let's do a track by track, just like I did last time for the Triumph one, talking about the songs on the album and giving you my review. So kicking off with the first song, I'm a Believer, which is really an awesome way to kick off the album. It actually starts with this, it has a guitar intro where it's just, if you didn't realize what an amazing guitar player Dan Huff is, then you're going to discover that, listening to this album, but this is a great introduction to it. So he's doing some sort of, shredding basically on that intro before the song really kicks in. And that intro is almost like a song by itself, and you can imagine that it possibly could have been given a song title and then had the I'm a Believer as the next song, but it's all part of the song. That guitar intro is part of I'm a Believer. It's a great rocker. It rocks from the start. Lyrically, it's very positive. Actually, some have said it's maybe it's got some Christian lyrics to it. Dan Huff was actually once a member of the Christian rock band Whiteheart. But I don't know. I mean, they were never labeled as a sort of a Christian band, and I think the lyrics are very open to interpretation. So really passionate vocals. I mean, when I'm talking about, I'm going to probably be talking about the the guitar playing of Dan Huff on this album and the next album, but his vocals are also really good, really passionate vocals. And yeah, you just notice that throughout the whole album. You believe, Dan believes in what he is singing. It's just, yeah. So he just puts everything into it. Yeah, great vocals, amazing guitar work. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, Dan Huff, he's the man as far as I'm concerned. And on this album, he does the guitar, vocals, and actually, I think has a hand in all the songwriting. So great, great start to the album. Really good song. Innocent Days. That's the next song. Another up-tempo song. Again, really amazing guitar work. Great guitar work throughout it. It's actually, especially at the end on this one, Dan just really lets rip on guitar. It's kind of a bit like at the start I'm a Believer, but this time instead of the big shredding guitar at the start, it's at the end, and that's a really cool way to finish the song. There's a music video for this song, which I actually never saw back in the day. I just sort of caught up on it on YouTube, but yeah. So that's 2 from 2. Really 2 excellent songs to kick off the album. And you probably now with this kind of a band would be thinking the next song is going to be a ballad, but it is not. The next one's actually another sort of up-tempo hard rock song called Can't Get Close Enough. Good lyrics again. Lyrically, I think this is got some good lyrics on it. We're talking 1989, so it's always easy to kind of go back and judge things from back in the 80s, about the lyrics and stuff. But I think these lyrics still hold up today. Yeah, great hard rock on this one. Yeah, so it's just 3 from 3, all great songs. Now we get to the ballad. So the next song, See You in My Dreams. This actually was a bit of a hit. And in 89, bands like Giant, if they had a ballad, usually would release it as a single. And a lot of times they'd have some success. Damn Yankees, Mr. Big, Extreme, all had ballads that were quite successful hits. And this is another one. And I got to be honest, it'd be one of my favorite hard rock ballads that was a hit, and I still like it. I think it's a great song. Yeah, and I do remember actually seeing the music video for this when it came out. Finishing off this side 1, we've got No Way Out. It's kind of like a bluesy rocker. For me, I have to say, it's probably the first not so great song. So we've had 4 great songs in a row. Yeah, I mean, if this album was sort of full of songs like this, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much as I do, but that thankfully is not the case. All right, so now we're going to turn the record over, go to side 2, and kicks off with Shake Me Up. Now, this is not a hair metal album at all, but this is getting a little bit hair metal, getting a little bit like, I could almost imagine Paul Stanley doing this one when he was doing, I can imagine him doing this on an 80s Kiss album. Lyrics are a little generic, yeah, and I think up to now the lyrics had been pretty good, but yeah, a little generic. It's okay, but yeah, after some of the quality songs that I heard on side 1, it's a bit disappointing. Now, I really like the next one though. It Takes Two. Great guitar intro, but it's not like heavy. And actually the song builds. So when it gets to the chorus, it gets a bit heavier. You might almost call it a power ballad, but I wouldn't consider it a ballad. I think it's just good commercial melodic hard rock. And actually, this is the kind of sound that Giant do really well. Great solo from Dan Huff. There's just so much great guitar work on this album. Yeah, and I'm sort of tempted to say Dan Huff is underrated as a guitar player, but then also I think people do know about his guitar playing. I think prior to this album he was an in-demand session player, and he's done guitar technique videos and things like that. So I guess he is rated, but maybe he's just not rated as much as he should be. Anyway, so that's It Takes Two. Really good song. Stranger to Me is the next one. And I have to say, when I thought about reviewing this album, I could not remember the song. So I played it last night, and when I played it, it still didn't sound familiar. But so yeah, quite unmemorable. It's okay, but yeah, just not a memorable song. And yeah, a little bit confused actually. Maybe that's why I don't remember it so good, because I'm not sure why it's even called Stranger to Me. I mean, there is one line where that's sung once in the whole song, Stranger to Me. Otherwise, most of the time he's singing uh, All I Want Is You. He says that quite a bit, so maybe it should have been called that. But yeah, anyway, and it's nearly 6 minutes long too, so yeah. For a song that's a bit unmemorable, it's quite a long time. Hold Back the Night is the next one. Well-known songwriter Mark Sparrow. He has a songwriting credit on this album, so not just this song, but other songs as well. This is one of his contributions. It's pretty typical sort of 80s hard rock. I think Giant kind of had their own sound at times, but on this one, perhaps not so much. Very sort of typical 80s hard rock. I kind of compared it to, and I think I used Michael Bolton comparison when I was talking about Triumph as well. But it's like heavy Michael Bolton, but when he started to not be so good. So it's like imagine Michael Bolton when he wasn't, because I liked early Michael Bolton when everybody's crazy kind of period, but then when he got quite pop, yeah, wasn't into that quite so much. But this is almost like that, but just a little bit heavier. But yeah, not that great. Next one is Love Welcome Home. I think at this point, when this song comes on, I'm pretty much pulling the needle up, right? I'm pretty much just I'm a bit over it because it's a ballad and it's a little boring. Mark Sparrow, another co-write, and on this one. But to be honest, I'm not blaming him because he has co-writing credits on I think the first 3 songs as well, or at least some of the songs on side 1 that I really like. So he has made some good contributions, but it's just not so great. And side 2 for me is starting to not be anywhere near as good as side 1. Now it finishes with the big pitch. Like I said, I'm often not even bothering to letting it get to the song, but it's actually okay. It's a bit of an up-tempo rocker, but also at the same time, it has sort of a bit of an album filler kind of feeling to it. But it's track 11, so I'm happy to take it or leave it really. So so there we go. There's your review of the album. Definitely not a 0 out of 10. I think they front loaded the album, so the first 4 songs are great, and also like It Takes Two. Musicianship on this album is fantastic, especially Dan Huff. I mean, amazing. A shame he's no longer in Giant. Like I said, he's been busy doing production and session work and things like that. His brother is still in the band, so the band I think they put out about 5 albums. But Dan has not been on the last 2 albums. His brother David is still in the band, and I think they've had a different vocalist though for the last 2 albums. But I recommend checking out. They put out an album last year in 2022, and I thought it was pretty good. Some good guitar work. Actually, John Roth from Winger is the guitarist on it, and he does some great work on it. So, some good guitar work. So I guess if you can't have Dan Huff do your guitar work, they got a pretty good replacement there with John Roth. So and I think he was on the 4th album as well. So worth checking out. But anyway, so what would I give this out of 10? Well, like I say, I love some of those songs so much, especially on the first side. It's definitely an album that I liked when I compare it to the Triumph albums that I reviewed in my last show. I enjoy this album and the next album much more than those albums. So I'm actually going to give it, this one I'm going to give 7.5 because, like I said, there's just some standout songs. Yeah, it does. I do lose interest a little bit on side 2, but the strength of those songs on side 1, and I still love putting that record on and playing it. It hasn't grown old at all. So, and I think although yes, you can compare them to other bands at the time and they have a certain sound, I think they also have their own sound, and it's very specific to them. So I'm going to give it 7.5 out of 10. All right, so let's move on now to the next album. Now, the next album is called Time to Burn. Here's the album cover. Lucky to have this on vinyl because it's actually not cheap or easy to get on vinyl. So this came out in 1992. Now, it's exactly the same lineup, same producer. So yeah, very similar. Yeah, so it's all the same, people there. No Mark Spiro helping out with songwriting. So for whatever reason they do like to bring someone in. Maybe that's the record company. I'm not sure. To do help with the songwriting. So on this one, they've actually got a guy called Van Stevenson. He released some AOR albums in the mid '80s, which some people really like. To me, they're a little bit dull. I don't know into them that much, but yeah. So he comes in, and a little bit like Mark Spiro, he doesn't write on everything, but he has a co-writing credit on, a reasonable number of the songs, including the first one. So the first song is called Thunder and Lightning. This is a really good up-tempo rocker, really good way to actually kick off the album. I think Giant is actually heavier than what you might think they are, especially if you only heard their hit ballad. Okay, sure, they're not a metal band, but they are definitely a hard rock band, and this is, yeah, like I said, a real up-tempo rocker, and yeah, a good way to kick off the album. It's not a song I love, but quite happy to start the album with this song. Yeah, I think it kicks off the album really good. Next one is Chained. It's got some nice background vocals. Actually, Giant do quite good background vocals, I think. Like I said before, pretty much all the guys do help out with vocals. Guys in the band, apart from Dan on lead vocals. This is a bit of a fan favorite, I think, this one, and it was one of the singles. But although interestingly enough, it's over 7 minutes long, so it's a bit of an unusual choice for a single. I'm not sure if they had an edited version that went out to radio, but 7 minutes is quite long for a single. I just sort of think it's a sound that just wasn't in favor in 1992, and I guess you could say that about every song on this album, really. But one thing too with Giant is that they actually have a dedicated keyboard player. So Alan Pasqua is the keyboard player. That's pretty much what he's there for to do, is to play the keyboards. And you can hear the keyboards on the song and on other songs. So, and it's used to great effect, I think. So I think it just gives Giant a little bit of extra flavor and variety to their sound. So it's an okay song. So Chained is track 2, and then we move on to Layered on the Line. So like their previous album, they're kicking off the album with 3 rockers, which I really, which I appreciate. Unfortunately, they're not as good as the first 3 songs on Last of the Runaways. They're okay, but just a little generic. I don't know. It's just not quite doing it for me. And granted, those first 3 songs on Last of the Runaways, I just love those songs. So, it's quite you're competing against some good songs there. But so I guess initially, Last of the Runaways is ahead of Time to Burn when just thinking about the first 3 songs. But things start to pick up from here, actually. And track 4 is another one of the singles. It's called Stay. And for me, it's the best song on the album, and actually competes with anything on their first album. Great chorus. I mean, if this wasn't 1992, I can imagine this having a huge hit potential. There was a music video for this, but yeah, it just never caught on. I don't know how much airplay it got. I actually did an acoustic version of this, which you can get, I think, on one of their CD singles. It's worth hearing. It's pretty good. But I just really like this song. So like I said, probably my favorite song on the album. But there are some other songs on this album I really like as well. But it just competes with anything on their first album. Great song. So good choice, I think, as a single. Next song. Now this was first of all, we've had 4 songs now. Stay is kind of mid-tempo sort of song. It must be time for a ballad, and it is. So Lost in Paradise, even the title probably tells you it's going to be a ballad. But wow, what a nice surprise this was. I think this is a fantastic ballad, really good. I think this, talking about songs that were released as a single, I can't believe this was not released as a single. It reminds me of See You in My Dreams, which was a massive hit for them. But it's different as well. But it does remind me of that. it's just as good as that ballad, if not better. Really great song. I just really surprised it wasn't released as a single. But there we go. And also interesting about this song too, it's actually has no songwriting credit for Dan Huff. It's the keyboardist Alan Pasqua and Van Stevenson that that wrote it. So it is awesome, really good song. So and I don't necessarily expect much from ballads. I'm like, okay, you got to have it, whatever. Let's get it out the way. But I really enjoy that song, really good one. All right, so now we're turning the record over, going to side 2, and it actually kicks off with Smolder, the first song, which is just a short instrumental. Like I've been talking about Dan Huff's guitar playing. It's always nice to hear him playing the guitar, but it's very short, and then it kicks in with Time to Burn, which is a real up-tempo rocker. But it is again showcasing Dan Huff's guitar playing. In fact, it almost seems like the main purpose of the song, because it's a bit of a throwaway song, but the main purpose of it is just to showcase and highlight his guitar work. And it's great. I mean, he sounds amazing on this song. So I'm not actually complaining about the fact that the song itself is fairly average. Just hearing Dan Huff on guitar is on this song in particular just is makes up for it. It's kind of reminds me a little bit of like some of those sort of what I consider sort of slightly forgettable Van Halen songs that then actually become memorable just because of Eddie's guitar work. So it's a bit like that. So that's the way I see it with Dan Huff and some of the songs that he plays on with Giant. Next song, Save Me Tonight. Now this is another mid-tempo rocker, and this is another one I really like. Now, on the previous album, they're starting to lose me on side 2, but actually, before I get to Save Me Tonight, it's I'll Be There When It's Over. So, now this is the type of song Giant do really well. Yes, it's very melodic and it's very commercial, but actually quite similar to Stay. Again, could have been a hit, but yeah, again, not in 1992. Really good song. It's got a songwriting credit from Jim Vallance on this one. Jim Vallance, of course, probably most well known for having written with Bryan Adams, but yeah, he's a songwriter written with a number of different artists. And that's a really good song. Now we're up to Save Me Tonight. Now, another mid-tempo rocker and another one I like. Now, as I was saying before, side 2 on the previous album wasn't so good, but on this album, side 2 is fantastic. It's more killer and less filler than the previous album. Save Me Tonight, nice chorus, great background vocals, and I like the lyrics on this one, I really do. So it's a real good one. And then it just carries on, Without You, fantastic song. So they're really hitting their stride now. It's another mid-tempo rocker. I can understand there could be some people going, it's just another sort of same pace. They need to really sort of do something a bit heavier, and I can get that. I think I sort of labelled critiqued Triumph a little bit for maybe on their albums. I was talking about their albums just not quite getting heavy enough at times. But I think the difference is Giant do these mid-tempo rock songs really well. It's just this for me. This kind of sound. This is in their warehouse. This is the sound they do really well. So I think this is what they should be doing. But also, good. Throwing some ballads and throwing some heavier songs as well. It's another Jim Vallance co-write here is also. Now Until Forever is the next song. So we're coming to the end of the album now, and this is this is a ballad. Probably was time for them to put a ballad on here because they really haven't had a ballad yet on this side of the album. So I guess you knew it was coming. And like I said, I really liked Lost in Paradise. This one, not so much, and it's almost 6 minutes long, so it's quite long. It is what it is. It's a rock ballad, but it's one of those ones that I just never really got into. And finally, we've got Get Used to It. Now, this one rocks, actually. This is one of the heavier songs on the album. I think it's a good way to finish the album. But again, I'd probably say I've actually on this album anyway preferring their mid-tempo songs more than their sort of fast rocking ones. But and not that there's a lot of them, but yeah, I think they probably thought let's just finish with something like this, and yeah, good way to finish off the album anyway. And gotta say, it started off okay, but then really got good, especially through most of the songs on side 2 and the end of side 1. So yeah, for me the standout songs are Stay, I'll Be There, Save Me Tonight, and Without You, and also honourable mention to Lost in Paradise. Yeah, because I don't often, praise the ballad. I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever, you got to have it, I guess. But no, I really like that song, and I just think even in 1992, and the chances of success in 1992, and you're a band like this, I mean, Nirvana are now, they've come out and grunge is really starting to take over, and a band like this, it is going to be a challenge. But I just think Lost in Paradise, if they had released that, it actually did have a chance. There were still a few bands, there were still a few hard rock, hair metal bands who were still just hanging in there, having maybe a little bit of success. It's possible. It could have been had for them, but there we go. Wasn't to be. They, like a lot of these type of bands, they pretty much just disappeared for a while. They did make a comeback. And their third album's worth checking out as well. That's the last one, though, to feature Dan Huff on vocals and guitar. So what's my ranking out of 10? Well, I gave Last of the Runaways 7.5, and I think I like this one, Time to Burn, just a little bit more. So I'm actually going to go with 8 out of 10. So really good albums, both of them. Great band. Musicianship is just fantastic. Yeah, so there we go. Highly recommended. Pick them up if you think you might like it. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Giant, if you are familiar with them, what you think about them. Like I said, they've got 5 albums. If you heard some of their other albums, what do you think of those? Hit the subscribe button, of course, if you haven't, and hit the thumbs up. And I will be back later with a new show. All right, we'll catch you later. See ya.